Right.
Then there were a couple other things. One is
Did he agree once he read the paper?
He said he would like to see more evidence. When he came on, he was very gracious, offered a lot of useful knowledge, but he really didn't counter with that much. There were some issues around about CBD biology versus THC. But
what is his field of expertise?
He's works on animal models, but focuses on cannabis biology, and so he's very knowledgeable. And I don't think he's anti-cannabis at all. But he was checking me on some things that he felt that I
weed.
Yeah, that he
maybe
from
he's better
Canada.
weed.
He's a very nice guy. He was checking me on some things that he felt I had not gotten correctly or that weren't adequately supported. So my response was, I did this publicly. Come on the podcast.
Right.
Like, I'm not afraid to talk science.
Sure.
That's what I do. Like, let's go. And not in a combative way. He agreed to come on the podcast. However, even though it's higher potency, when people take it by edible,
right,
there are cases where people get to genuine freak out and psychotic episodes because they're taking in far too much too quickly, because you can eat the edible quickly. Not layering it in until they hit that plane that they want to be at.
Well, it's also the conversion to 11-hydroxy metabolite. It's 5 times more psychoactive than THC. I used to do a joke about it, that it lets you talk to dolphins. This bit is a true story about edibles and a dolphin experience. But
so he wasn't anti-cannabis. And in fact, I think it was a case where, maybe this brings us back to Twitter, where Twitter was a very valuable tool. So I put out something, I was going off the literature that I cited. Mm-hmm. He said, no, listen, there's some issues here. You should adjust this. We brought him on the podcast. He was reluctant to come on the podcast. He thought I was going to set him up for a fall. We've never done that.
Yeah,
comes on the podcast, got the information out there, and then it all just kind of went to a quiet simmer or nothing. And in the end, I think that's the way that all of this stuff should be handled. Whether or not you're talking about one medical treatment or another and this is the way you've done it. And this is the example you've laid out for me and for others, right? Which is talk about both sides. Talk to vegans, talk to carnivores, talk to omnivores, talk to people who are pro-cannabis, anti, and worried about psychosis and not. Talk to people that are really pro-MDMA for the treatment of PTSD. Talk to people who are very reluctant.
Yeah.
I think only there can we get the overlap in the Venn diagram about what the agreements are and what the disagreements are and move forward. And this
especially long form, because then you get to understand how a person thinks about things, not just the subject at hand, but maybe other things.
Right.
To hear their speech patterns and their thinking patterns.
And I think direct experience is real.
Yeah.
Cam Haynes pointed this out recently, and I'm not saying this to focus the positive energy on us, but it will invariably do that, or inevitably do that, excuse me, which is, he said, it's kind of interesting that all of the top podcasters really fit, all the people that are really into their health, right? Like you, and there's David's out there, like influencers. He was saying there's a health component or a fitness component. Not always, but I think most of them. I think he may have said all of them. He may have said many of them. But Chris Williams and Lex, there's a tendency to merge kind of intellectual discourse with physical, and I think that's a unique theme of podcasting also, or at least of certain.